And just a little note, Joe, you can go ahead and start passing it around. Oh, you want to say something? Yeah.
Yeah. Thing for next month, and we have that theme of childhood memories, and one of our members had the very fun idea of maybe instead of our normal snacks and refreshments, you'll bring your favorite childhood snack or treat. And to go along with the childhood memory sake. So we got them rolling, people have signed up. I'll read out a place to put your email, which is super useful to me. So when I can send out the reminders, I have it already there. So I'll just pass that around if you would like to sign up or anyone coming.
And if you don't want to bring your childhood favorite, you don't have to. It's just a suggestion. It would be a lot of fun. Okay, our speaker in just a little bit is going to be Dr. Bryan Beyer. So we're looking forward to having him. Make sure if you haven't signed in for tonight's meeting that you do it, and please print because it isn't always easy to read your signatures, and we need that. We need that to be able to tell who's been here and you get credit for the meeting. If you need a program or want a program from the juried show, they're on the table back there, plus the winners and insert, and also the still life programs. They're all on the table. So if you want one of those, you're welcome to have it. Also on the table is TC Bowers has a list. TC, can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
If you follow us on social media, we've been doing our artist spotlight. So it's one day a month. It's the second Saturday of the month. We do a publication in the Chapin magazine and Chapin Neighbors. We'll write up about you, quick bio. But it's a great way to get in front of people, come display your artwork. We had to bring it in on Friday. We leave it up till the following Thursday most of the time. But basically, we ask you to be there that Saturday from 11 to 3. If it's something you're interested in, we put up our pro panels for that day. Come in and get to meet people. Sometimes it's busy, sometimes it's not. It never really goes to the weather, and everybody likes to play on the lake around here. But if it's something you're interested in, sign up. We'll get you some more information. We've got the date to it for the end of next year.
And where is there?
At the Palmetto Fine Arts, it's in the Food Line Shopping Center right here.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. All right, we have at least one new member tonight. If you're a new member, could you stand, please? All right, could you introduce yourself, please?
Salino Mandanas. I'm from the Philippines. I was in the Philippines 23 years, and I lived in Columbia, South Carolina, 55 years. I'm more southern than from Philippines. And I'm so proud that I survived the Dixie. Retired physician, and my office was in West Columbia. I went to 4 hospitals at the time. I worked myself in my butt. And when I'm retired now, my passion is to pay.
Thank you. And you go by Tay, is that correct?
What?
Do you go by Tay, T-A-Y?
People to call me Ty,
Ty.
T-A-Y, which is short for father. I am 88 years old. I don't know why I'm still alive. It's a privilege or a punishment. Seriously. And through my age and my life, I'm not a philosopher. But I'm going to tell you some word that you should realize and begin to figure it out. The word is stupidity. It's not even in any religion. And we are not excused from it. What I would like from me, the remaining of my 4 years maybe, to do much less stupidity than I've done all of my life.
Aw. Well, thank you so much for coming. We're glad to have you. Do we have any other new members? People who have just joined? Okay. And what about guests? we have at least one guest. Could you stand and tell us your name and who you're with?
I'm Jeff, everybody. I work at the University of South Carolina as a graphic designer there, and I would tell you that you're coming back into fine art. It's I've been 200 times. I'm waiting.
Oh. We understand.
Yeah. So I'll be retiring right now. But anyway, so coming here just to kind of start learning, because there's so much I learned as a graphic designer, but didn't do all the fine art classes. Excited to learn.
Well, welcome.
I will be having the guest come, but she's coming a little bit later.
Okay.
Carrie Snyder, and she's from Arizona and a retired art teacher.
Okay, so we'll look forward to seeing her. And are you a new member or no? I'm sorry. Yes. And okay, I didn't see you with a name tag.
The Juried Art Show, and it's still there.
Okay. That's all right. Well, I'm glad you're here anyway. We had a great 30th annual juried show and reception last month. I'm sorry I wasn't there too, but I've seen pictures and I think it's wonderful and I've heard lots of good things about it. Thank you to so many who helped in many ways. Also, thanks to Bobby Sorensen, the chairman of the juried show, and her committee for all their hard work to make sure the show was such a great success. We had over 150 pieces of art that were entered by our members. Thanks to everyone for their participation and congratulations to our award winners. If any of you won an award, can you stand up tonight? We'll go ahead and recognize you. Look at all of our award winners here. Congratulations. That's great. Thank you. Okay, today is the last day to register for the exhibition at the Irmo Branch Library. Kathy Schwalm is in charge of the Irmo Branch Library show. If you would like to display your artwork and possibly sell it, please talk to Kathy Schwalm tonight or send her an email with your intent to register. So Kathy, yes, please.
Telling everybody it's closed. So please use my email to send your information. And I don't know how you arrange with paying this. You can do that when Barbara comes back, but I'm not getting any registrations because it's not coming through.
Okay, so if you want to register, her last name is Schwalm and it's C-H-A. Thank you. That's it. So you can ask her for that. And also you could bring your $5 check or money to when you bring it to the Irmo Library. And that would be a good way to get the money. It's not full. They still need more. Because we offered an extended time to register, we're unable to access our normal registration page. You'll still need to provide information about your piece to Kathy and pay the $5 per entry fee. And this can be paid to Kathy at the delivery this Saturday. So this is just a reminder for all who had their artwork on display in the Tap Gallery from the show to please take it home tonight. Our new display for this month is artwork with the theme of Awakening. This is our last themed display for the league year, as next month the display will be all the art that's entered into the annual May contest. And please go online and read about that contest. I'll read a little bit here. Our May meeting will be our last meeting before we break for the summer. Instead of having a presenter, we will be having our annual May contest. Members are asked to bring one piece of artwork along with an easel to display in the meeting room for the duration of the meeting. Members will get a chance to view all of the art and then vote for their favorites, and ribbons will be awarded. The theme for this contest is childhood memories. Please go to our website and look for events, annual contest. There's no cost to enter, but you do need to register your entry on the website by May 16th, prior to the meeting. This is a fun meeting and a great way to wrap up our league year. Thank you to Jasmine Fleetwood. Jasmine, can you let them? She's waving her hand for heading up this contest. If you have any questions, you can talk to Jasmine afterwards. All of the entries submitted will also remain at Crooked Creek Park in our Tap Gallery, those walls that are in front of the lobby throughout the summer. We look forward to seeing what everyone comes up with for the Childhood Memories theme. Remember, you can go to our website to sign up to display your artwork in several of our businesses around town. This is a great way to share your art with the community as well as possibly sell your art. Check out our public gallery opportunities on our website. Our next workshop will be held September 26th and 27th with Dan Graziano, who will be teaching on painting painterly from a photo reference. Registration is open now through the website. Please check our website for more information and to register. Next month, we're going to be voting on our nominees for next year's board officers. I'd like to ask that Maureen Carter from the nominating committee come to present and introduce the candidates. Before the elections, we'll also take nominations from the floor as stated by our bylaws. I know. I'll do this and then you can.
Hey, Sandra Oliver and Kathy Schwam and I have been busy trying to find people to lead this volunteer organization next year and all of the spots that are available. And for president, we're nominating, wait a minute, where is he? Oh, there he is. Michael Naughton, if you please stand. Yep. And vice president is Bobby Mann. Is she here, please? Oh, we missed her. Okay. Well, she's been a member previously and she's coming back and is very excited to become active again. Secretary is Jan Lane. I saw her there she is. Yeah. And the answer to Stephanie's prayers is Gemma Causey for treasurer. So Gemma's recently retired and recently moved down here. And so she's got a fresh brain, you know, okay. The parliamentarian will be Yvonne and the webmaster is Barbara Tusink. We've also been trying to fill in the committees, you know, and get people to fill the committee spots. And we have some vacancies still, so there's still opportunities for people to participate. Barbara Tusink will continue to work on community art, but she really, really, really wants somebody to help her, like really, okay? Okay, grants. Bryan Beyer is retiring from that. And so we need a grant writer. And I know he's got all kinds of good information to pass along to anybody that wants to take that up. But it's really, that's an important thing, financial thing for the league, like really. Publicity, we need somebody for publicity. We need somebody for sponsorships. And let's see, hold on, got one more. Oh, Facebook, somebody to post things on Facebook. So these are all just wonderful jobs and you guys think about it. And when you decide what you want to do, let Yvonne know, you can let me know. But yeah, please volunteer because that's what we run on. Nobody's paid. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next meeting on the executive committee.
Thank you, Maureen. We do appreciate everybody that volunteers and helps run the league. There's a lot to do, but it's really fun to be a part of the board here and to get to know people better, to get to know the inner workings. It is work, but work can be fun. So consider it, especially if you really want to get involved. Okay, our speaker tonight is Dr. Bryan Beyer. Bryan and his wife, Yvonne, who is our president, joined the Art League in 2022. Guys, that was only 3 years ago, and just think how much they filled for us in the last few years. And as you know, for the past 2 years, Yvonne has served as president and Bryan has served as grants coordinator. They've enjoyed photography together as a significant hobby since 2010. In addition to being members of Crooked Creek Art League, they're also part of Columbia Camera Club and the Carolinas Nature Photography Photographers Association. Sorry, I have COVID brain, but I don't have COVID. It's this. Bryan has won numerous photography awards from these three groups, as well as from the South Carolina State Fair. From 1985 to 2021, Bryan served in various roles on the faculty and administration of what is now Columbia International University, and he now serves on CIU's Board of Trustees. He's also a writer. One of his most significant publications is Encountering the Old Testament, which is a leading college-level textbook he co-authored with Dr. Bill Arnold of Asbury Theological Seminary. Bryan also serves as editor for Camera in the Wild, the magazine of the Carolinas Nature Photographers Association. Bryan's topic for us tonight is leaving an art legacy. Would you please welcome Bryan as he comes to speak to us?
My fault, my fault. Walk in front of that. I'm already getting feedback. Yeah, very good. Oh, good to be here tonight, even though the circumstance is a little bit less than what we had thought, but grateful to be here. After sitting there and listening to that, I'm reminded of what one of my professors said one time. He said, I don't believe in big introductions. If the speaker's good, everyone will know it. If the speaker's bad, then after a big introduction, everybody's expecting this. And even if you get this, it feels like this. So I'm going to try to do what I can. But we really love the Art League. As Lainey said, Yvonne and I joined in the fall of 2022 at Lainey's introduction, at Lainey's invitation. And because we worked together at CIU for a number of years, and her husband is still there. And so we've, friends that way. And she invited us to the Art League. And from the day one, we've just appreciated so much the connection that we've had with everyone here. And we've realized that even though we are the minority as photographers, that there's a lot of common ground. And we've never had a meeting yet where we've gone home and thought, well, that didn't apply to us at all as photographers. There just seems to be so much common ground that we have as artists. And that's what I want us to talk about a little bit tonight. Just to alert you, you might have seen it in Yvonne's president's letter that went out. But I hope that at least toward the end, we'll have some time for some discussion of some ideas. I call it a artist's hopper. When I served as the academic dean for a while out at CIU, every October we would have an Eastern Regional Deans Conference, and we would meet somewhere along the coast, and we would have a dean's hopper where you could just bring any idea that you wanted to talk about. Like, what do you pay your faculty? How are you fair if you've got one guy who's teaching hundreds of students and somebody else is teaching dozens of students, and these kinds of things? And how do you this? So maybe applying it to tonight, maybe there are some of you here today who are a bit newer to the arts and to the league and so forth. And you're just thinking, if I had a chance to ask this question in front of these folks who are here and get an answer from them, I would love that. Or maybe you're a little bit farther along and you've thought, for years I've been frustrated by this. Maybe someone here has the answer about getting past that. So think about that, because there's coming a slide when I just kind of want to throw it open and see what you have to say. If it's something really short, I can respond, but we have Harold Blackwood, our roving microphone man, who will get to you if you have a little bit something more than that to say. Okay. Crooked Creek Art League. I want to talk tonight about leaving an art legacy. This didn't come up recently, but I started thinking about this a while back. This summer, Lord willing, I turned 70. And barring some amazing miracle in medical science, I have more in the rearview mirror than I have in the road ahead. So how do I spend the years I have left, which might be 30? I mean, my dad is 92 and I'm in the gene pool. Okay, but it might not be as well. My mother died in her mid 60s, other issues, but still, So not to be morbid, but just to be strategic. How do we invest our lives in the best way we can the years that we have left? And that really applies to art. As I've gotten to know more of you, Yvonne and I do this photography thing together, and I really like it. It has grown on me beyond what I could imagine, but it is her passion, and I can see it. And I love to watch her in action when we go out and speak, or when we go speak, when we go out and take pictures. So let's go to, oh, if I turn this on, it works better. Okay, there we, oh, look at that. So let's start with the Constitution. I know there are some of you who are disappointed that we haven't talked about the Constitution since last November. Ha ha, probably a very small number. But it says the general purpose of the League shall be to encourage and stimulate the practice and appreciation of the creative arts for its members. The term creative arts is understood to include, but not limited to, painting, drawing, photography, and three-dimensional work such as sculpture and ceramics. Now, I divided this into 2 paragraphs, but it's really one long paragraph in the Constitution. But you notice how in that first paragraph, the focus is in, right? It's on us. The purpose of the League is to encourage and stimulate the practice and appreciation of the creative arts for its members and guests. But it's for us. So this is a what are we doing for ourselves kind of thing. But now look at the second paragraph. The League shall strive to stimulate interest in the creative arts by promoting and developing programs and projects that are of educational value and by presenting quality art fairs. Where? Out there. Where's out there? Out there. Exhibits, sales. We have places in the greater community that we can display our art, sell our art. We had close to 500 people stop at the booth on the Labor Day Festival up in Chapin and check out the turtles and just talk to us. It was amazing. People just come by. There is such an interest in the arts that I was not aware of before September 2022. The League shall work cooperatively with arts and civic groups to build audiences and participants in the arts. The first paragraph of our constitutional statement on who are we focuses in. This is what we do for one another. The second paragraph talks about how do we push it out there? How do we take the good stuff that we learn? How do we take the good stuff that we enjoy? And for some of us, our passion, for some, maybe a few, our livelihood. And how do we push it out there? How do we extend? And kind of getting back to my first statement about turning 70 this summer, how do we ensure that this continues when we're no longer part of this? How do we think about, what do we think about? How do we place these skills, these crafts in the hands of the next generation? How do we leave a legacy? Now, Lainey said that I've served as grants coordinator. And when we apply for grants, we usually shorten that up a bit. And so here's what we say. The purpose of the Crooked Creek Art League is to support and encourage new and established artists, it's kind of inward, to educate and encourage each other's work, and to help grow the visual arts in our community by offering artists avenues to improve skills, display and sell art, and to socialize and network with art supporters. So things like the Labor Day Festival, that's what we were doing. People are walking by, we have brochures. Some people join the Art League because of that. Others are just very interested in how they can be more involved in some way. And so this is what typically when we apply for grants, we put in the grant. It's a little bit shorter than the longer one. And then sort of in a general way, I think we could say something like this. We paint, we draw, we take pictures, we create 3D pieces, and we try to make the world a better place through our artwork. Isn't that really what we're doing? You know, why do we do what we do? Well, we hope that it means something, it does mean something to us, or we wouldn't be here, or we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. But don't we want to have some kind of contribution to the well-being, to the betterment of other people, of our world, of our society, of our local areas? So tonight, I just want to share a few things. And when we get down to questions to ponder, that's our, and really before that, the artists and photographers, similarities and differences, will have a little bit of audience participation. That's where you participate. And otherwise, I'll just have to show grandchild pictures and, home movies. Yeah. So I'll talk a little bit about our history, Yvonne and I, in the arts. And then I just kind of want to get a feel for who's here tonight. I mean, I know a lot of you, but in terms of what's your passion? What are your areas of art? And just to get a sense of that. And when we talk about similarities and differences and questions to ponder and even leaving a legacy with our art, I hope that you'll be thinking about what does that look like for me at whatever age we are. Yvonne and I were married June 21st, 1975. kind of a little bit of a grainy picture, but notice the sideburns there. Yeah, that says 70s, right? She still has her hair, as you know, but mine was sort of already receding. So do the math. This June, 50, yeah. And here's one of my more recent picture. I think one of our daughters took this, or daughter or granddaughter. I just always like that one. It just sort of a lot of color, a lot of splash, and it just says, yeah, I'm married over my head. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But we really enjoy photography. We enjoy this together. We started our photography journey back in 2010. It was 2009 when Yvonne said to me, you know, I think I'd really like to get a nice DSLR camera and start this hobby. And up to that point, I think the late 70s, 1977, our first child was born, and then another one about a year and a half later. And some family members had purchased a 35 millimeter camera, which was a big jump up from the Kodak Instamatic. As nice as that was, click, brrr, you know, those kind of cameras where the film rewound. And we could see the quality of pictures. And so we had purchased a 35 millimeter, an old Pentax ME way back when. And then around 2004, 2005, as grandchildren started to be born, that kind of pushed us to the digital camera age. And so we started the digital camera thing. And what a nice thing that you weren't paying per picture. What a nice thing. And you didn't have to wait to get the film developed. Remember what an advancement it was when we could get 1 hour photo lab? And now, click, there it is on the back of my camera. Now it's so wonderful. But in 2009, Ivana just said, I think I'd really like to do some photography. Her parents, it was something that they had done together as they became empty nesters. Her dad had always done that. Her mom then joined in. Pretty soon she was winning contests where she would get first and he would get second and stuff like that. But it was something that they could do. And so I told Yvonne, well, I'll get you one. So got her a Nikon D90. And we started our journey with that. And then in 2012, something really special happened. We joined Columbia Camera Club. And the way that happened was one of the ladies on the CIU faculty invited her to go with her to Columbia Camera Club. But then that lady, my colleague, ended up teaching Tuesday nights, which is when we meet, first Tuesday. So I told her, well, I'll go. I think I'd like that. I'd enjoy that. And it just grew on me more than I thought. Now, I would still say it's her passion. I really like it, but she just loves it. But Columbia Camera Club has been something that we've really enjoyed. On a full night, we probably get 40 people, and they have a Facebook page and so forth. And in that group, anything goes. Photographers of all types, people who shoot landscapes as well as birds or animals, just anything goes, anything goes. And then in 2013, what we learned about from the Columbia Camera Club was that a lot of those people were part of the Carolinas Nature Photographers Association. And that's a much bigger group. The local chapter is about, attendance at meetings is about 50 or so, but the North Carolina and South Carolina, it's a group, CNPA, and it's about 1,000 members. So across North and South Carolina, there are 13 or 14 chapters, and we're in the Midlands chapter. One of the encouraging things about both of those societies, but I remember it so distinctly at the Columbia Camera Club, one of our first outings was to the state fair. And we walked around the state fair with one of the veteran members, and he just kind of, took us under his wing, and we started going around, and he said, okay, let's stop here in front of the Ferris wheel. And so he told Yvonne, put your settings on this, your ISO, and then take the picture. Okay, now see what that looks like? Now, I want you to change the ISO this much, or I want you to change the shutter speed this much, or change it this much. And so there was this coaching going on. And a couple years later, when she had a really big annual meeting and won several awards at CNPA, he was the first one across the room. Congratulations. And it just encouraged us. The spirit that we have at Columbia Camera Club, at CNPA, and here is, we all like to win something, but there's not a spirit of jealousy or envy or something. It's a good group. So 2013, we joined Carolina Nature's Photographers Association. And then in 2022, we joined the Art League. And basically when people ask what we do, we shoot anything outdoors. Now we're talking camera. Okay, we shoot anything outdoors. But we do a lot of wildlife, but we also do landscapes and the like. So I'll just show you a few that over the years we've done, and just the different lessons that we've learned. I hope when you're thinking about your art, what are you learning? What are you learning as you go? One of the members of CNPA recently wrote an article for our journal, Camera in the Wild, our magazine. And in it, she wrote about keeping a journal while she does photography. And she's keeping a journal of her experience. And, oh, when I was at that site, here's what happened. And she writes it down. And what did she learn that day from her experience? And we probably don't do enough reflecting. We don't do enough of that, stopping to think about, what have I just done? That image that I just painted, what I did, that image that I just photographed, what have I learned now? And that's important to do. What have I learned? There have been times where nature has presented me with the perfect opportunity. I remember when we were down at Huntington Beach State Park, Murrells Inlet, and we started walking around looking for the barred owl. And as we were walking in the northern parking lot, we started down this path, and I said, Yvonne, he's right there. And he was right there, and it was perfect, just set up so well. And it was January, so I could wade through that brush and not worry about stepping on a snake. And it just perfect, and just shot away and shoot, and got home and realized there was just enough breeze that I wasn't shooting fast enough. And so there's just a slight blurriness in all my pictures. And then I looked at Yvonne's and I thought, well, she got it right. Good, we got it. But it was such a fun day. We love birds, and isn't it amazing the different birds we have? I captioned this one. This pelican's just saying, "Ha ha! I got a million of them." What in the world? What if we just had one species of bird? Here's a bird, take it or leave it. But instead we have pelicans. Just amazing. And I think this was down at Huntington Beach as well. And they were just swimming around and kind of posing for the camera. And then this is something else I learned about pelicans, is that they can work together. I've seen pelicans work together. You get to know your subject, you get to know your birds, and you find out they'll line up and work together to try to corral the fish in. And that way, if the fish starts going that way, somebody gets the fish. Fish doesn't totally get away until one of them gets the fish. Then there's a fight over, I saw it first. And it's, yeah. Something else that I've learned about wood storks, this one was, I believe this is down in St. Augustine, Florida, at the alligator farm. Now, there are lots of alligators at the alligator farm, but we go for the birds because about this time, May, June, July, August, now it's hot in Florida, but don't worry, the humidity keeps you alive, right? Or youthful or something, I don't know, it's hot. But there are a lot of nesting birds. If they fall into the water, the alligators take care of them. But we just stand there and we're trying to shoot and watching for them. And they came in and they're landing in those trees and trying to get these shots. And, we're so blessed now that we have the technology we do where we can shoot bursts as photographers. And so one of those hopefully is good. And I remember seeing these black and white wood storks flying in to go to their nest, and got home with the images and started to develop them. And I realized there's color. Yeah, never knew that. Shooting against a blue sky, silhouetted, black and white bird. Started to zoom in and see all the texture and I don't think this point, no, okay. But the texture in the neck, and then just the feathers, I realized, wow, you got some purples, you got some greens. Just, I didn't realize that. So yeah, so you learn something as you watch these birds. We also shoot dragonflies. Dragonflies are kind of fun. Did you know that they're predictable? Dragonflies are predictable. That guy landed on that stick and was sitting there when I walked up, and I started to get set up for this picture, and then he flew off. Don't worry, they'll come back. Dragonflies circle right back. So set up, if you're a photographer, just set up because he's coming back. I mean, unless his spouse just called him for lunch or something, I don't know, but normally they're there. And just macro photography or these close-up lenses, it's just, you start to look at that thing and you think, it's a dragonfly. Like, and the intricacy on that thing and the little, the little hairs, fibers on their legs that they can grip stuff, and the eyes and it's like all this mesh in their wings is just amazing. But usually if you're patient, you can get a pretty good shot of a dragonfly because they will fly out and they come right back to that same place. So keep that in mind. This was a shot, you might recognize it from Still Hopes in the fall. I entered this one in Still Hopes, but one of our favorite places to go in North Carolina is a place called Bullington Gardens. And September, October is the sweet spot. It's in Hendersonville. It's at the exit for Bat Cave and Chimney Rock, and you just go off and it's maybe 7 minutes off the highway, really close. And it's free. Donations are welcome, but they're open 5 or 6 days a week from 9 to 4. And they have rows and rows and rows and rows of dahlias. And you can sit there and paint them, or you can photograph them. And of course, with the dahlias come pollinators, like the bee. And just, again, being able to zoom in on this stuff and to see this is something that my eye never saw, but with the help of my art, with the help of cameras and technology, I can see the intricacy in the wings of a bee, how this here almost looks like a little fur piece on his body. And then you can see all the little pieces of little fibers that collect the pollen as they fly from one to the other. And usually I've never been stung, so I kind of, if you don't bother them, they don't tend to bother you. But I also don't use one of those macro lenses that I have to get this far away on a bee, but a little bit farther away. But just really enjoy the intricacies, and you see all the detail in this. Here's this tiny little creature. In CNPA, our Carolinas Nature Photographers Association, we have different categories in our annual Members' Choice Awards, and one of them is small stuff. And a bee would be small stuff. Anything smaller than a chipmunk is small stuff. So lizards, so forth. This was a picture I took, I believe, at Brook Green Gardens. Oh, it was. Brook Green Gardens is about another mile down Highway 17 from Huntington Beach State Park, and a beautiful garden. They have a nice deal on tickets too, where I think if you buy one, then you have a pass for 7 days or something. Your one price, which isn't too bad, gets you in for up to 7 days straight, or skip a day and come back or whatever. But I just love the colors on this one. And we walked around the gardens. There were a lot. We saw an alligator, but he took off before we had a chance to shoot him. But the butterflies were a little bit more patient, and just all the intricacy on a butterfly. But something else I learned from this picture was you really have to study your images. I took this picture and I liked it, and I tweaked it a little bit in post-processing and enjoyed it, but then I bet it was a year later, I was looking at it again and I realized there's a caterpillar on that picture. I had never seen it because it was green and blended in with the flower. I was so focused on the yellow, the orange, the butterfly, how it just fit together, and the green background, and I really liked how it all came together. And I was sitting at the table with Yvonne and looking at that. No, it's not a caterpillar. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You can see the little legs on there, so just, wow. Yeah. So keep on studying your subject. You never know what might be in there. We've all, as photographers, we've all had that moment where, oh man, there was a cobweb, or there was a piece of something on that plant petal and I didn't get it off there. And sometimes you can fix it. Sometimes you can't. We love azaleas, and azaleas remind us as photographers, if it's there today, shoot it, because it might not be there tomorrow. Or if you're planning an outing to sit, maybe you do plein air and you're going to find a good azalea patch, you find some, and you're going to paint them. Do it now. They won't be there in May. They won't. They're just an amazing flower that comes out for a few weeks. And we love to go down to Magnolia Plantation and Gardens in Charleston. That's a great place to have an annual membership, because if you go 3 or 4 times, you've paid for it. And we got one at the end of March, and we've already paid for it. And so it's free from now on, sort of. But just a wonderful garden there, but it's especially beautiful during late March, early April, We have our spies down there that help us know when is the garden peak for azaleas, then we get right down there. But just, an amazing flower. And through the work we can do with photography, you can darken the background. And then sometimes I just take a picture like I did with this leaf. I don't know that I'll ever use it for anything. Well, I'm using it tonight, but for a contest or something. But I just liked it. I just looked closely at it, and it was an early morning, and we were out, so we still had the dew kind of dripping off of it. And if you look closely, oh, that looks like a bug there that I didn't see. And yeah, maybe the residue of a bird that had flown over, perhaps. But I just like the texture of a leaf. You see all the intricacies and how that plant worked. And here was this leaf, and it was actually attached to the bush. Something else I've learned in photography is it's not necessarily about getting the whole shot. It's not necessarily about taking the whole flower in. Yvonne and I went with her 3 brothers and their wives up to Alaska on a cruise to 2018, but we went to several of the cities and the flowers are really blooming in late July. And I really got this idea from her. You don't have to shoot the whole flower, just shoot part of it. Sometimes if you shoot a picture of an alligator, you don't need the whole alligator. If you have part of the nose and that eye, oh, that's a gator. And it must be really big. Well, it's really only this big. Yeah, but it's so big it doesn't fit in your picture. So it must be big. So you can get a little creative there with the imagery. So this was one that Yvonne really liked, and I entered it with North Carolina. Raleigh has a North Carolina Arboretum, and we entered that in this one contest one year, and it was on display there for a while. But then there are other things that just fascinating. You just look at them and you think, I'm gonna shoot that. I'm gonna get a picture of that from a safe distance. So here's a Komodo dragon. I entered this in CNPA one year, and I was really hopeful. One of the categories is captive, and so it can be any animal, but if it's in a zoo, then it's captive in the category. And this was at the alligator farm down in St. Augustine. So we're down there, and from a safe distance, I could shoot this thing. And the eye, I like him looking, and the scales, you see the nostril nice and crisp, and then it kind of fades here in the back, but that's okay. That's okay because it's a big animal, it's a deep animal. But then one of my favorite parts of it is, look at all the dirt and slobber right there. It's no wonder that when these things bite something, it dies. It's no wonder, just the slobber and stuff. So yeah, but, and into the category that year, there were 13 entries and I didn't win. Oh boy, that hurts. Better if there were 113 and I didn't win, but 13, oh shucks. But I still like it. It's just fun. And then sometimes you take pictures that they're not the greatest picture, but they kind of tell a story and it's kind of funny. In our Camera in the Wild magazine, I think it was a few issues ago, Harold submitted an article on don't forget to look behind you. When they were in the Smoky Mountains and there was this bear with her mother bear with her cubs, but that it wasn't good and they're kind of back in the weeds and the lighting wasn't great and it was raining too, right? A little bit. So, it's just not very good, but they're there. So we're going to show what we have. And this woman walks up and says, what are you doing? Oh, you're shooting the bears there. What about that one over there? And they all turned around, and how far away was it? About 20 feet. Yeah, bear's just like, what you doing? So look around. So when I look at this picture, I think that great philosophical question, why can alligators find the crosswalk and that woman with her kid can't? Over there on the far right, over here on the far right, this is Yvonne. And she was shooting that way. I was shooting this way. The alligator was coming out of one pond to cross over the causeway at Huntington Beach State Park. And I was sitting down and she said, you better move back. He's getting pretty close. He's kind of coming pretty close to you. And I said, no, I saw where he came out of the water. Well, I did see where he came out of the water. I just didn't know that when he came out of the water, he turned left and came up. So when I finally saw him, oh yeah, he's a little closer than I thought. Not that close, but I'll just back away slowly. But just, here he goes. He goes like right across the crosswalk and down in like, hi folks. So not a great shot, but just kind of a humorous one. Kind of like Harold's, turn around, look behind you. Here's the real shot back here. And then another thing I've learned about photography, and I think this is something that would apply to all of us, is listen to your friends. Listen to your friends. Listen to others who look at your art and like it. When Yvonne and I, one night we went out to Lake Murray, and we were just along the dam and trying to see what we could get in terms of shutter speed slower so that we get silky water. And when we were coming up on the juried show last year, she said, "Why don't you enter that? I've always liked that one." We take so many pictures, you paint so many. How do you decide, well, which one am I going to use for this? But she said, "I've just always liked that one. Why don't you enter that one?" Best of show. Wow. 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 So listen to your spouse. Listen to your friends. If you go with, maybe some of you go together to do art stuff. And if you do, maybe it's a workshop that CCAL is sponsoring. What do other people think of your work? And what do they think is the one that you should enter? Sometimes they know. And it's hard when, if you're like me, we're our own worst critics. And so we don't enter something, or maybe we should, I don't know, but so ask other people. And then we also love to go to the fair. And this is also not a great shot, but it just makes the point about, if you have a slow shutter speed, you can make a ride look very different than it usually does, or a Ferris wheel that's going in the back and it just kind of goes around like this. And that's fun. What can you do creatively? One of my favorite places to travel, and I love to take groups there, is Israel. And when I was there one time, this was the Jerusalem sunset looking over the, well, they say it's not the old wall. They say, oh, that's not an old wall. It's a new wall. It's just 500 years old. Twice the age of our country. And then another shot, kind of the same thing in Jerusalem, the olive trees and just walking along the old city. I thought I just kind of like that. Kind of nice. And then I think it was last spring, Yvonne and I went to the Western North Carolina, Cashiers, Sapphire, that area. And we found rivers that we could walk to that were close. There was a lot of rain. So we found stuff that was within 100 to 200 yards of the car so that we could quickly get out of there if we needed to. And it was just a nice time. As it got later in the day, I would kind of switch from shooting images to watching for bears, while she continued to shoot images knowing that her husband was watching for bears. But that's just fun to do. What can you do creatively with water? I'm going to come back to that in a little bit. And then another place we love to go, one of our happy places, is Swan Lake Iris Gardens. It's in Sumter. It's free from dawn until dusk typically, so the hours vary, but they have 2 ponds. It's relatively flat. 7 species of swans that stay there all the time. And then around this time, the irises are coming in, and all sorts of irises. And azaleas. The azaleas are starting to drop off now, but irises, and it's a beautiful park. And it's free, and there are rangers driving around. How you doing today, folks? It's a nice place. Some geese, some ducks, other things. Every so often we found a snake, but just a special place. And that was one of the images I took there. Again, that wasn't exactly what I saw that day, but I underexposed the background to make it stand out, and then that's what it ended up looking like. And then here's an image that I took up at, any of you recognize this one? Yes, the Babcock Park and the grist mill, the old grist mill that's there. And the hardest part of that shot is waiting for everybody to get out of the way. There were 15 photographers lined up. We're all just waiting, and somebody with a bright red shirt would come out of that window and just kind of look around. I mean, it's okay. It's not my park. They have a right to be there too, but you spend a lot of time waiting sometimes. And then somebody would pop up on the rock, and oh well, but we got the shot finally. And then we also love Colorado. Our son lives in southwestern Colorado, and this was a shot out near him, the Ridgeway Overlook, they call it. And what you don't see there are the 12 people who were lined up on either side. And as the lighting kept changing later in the day, wow, look at that. Yeah, and so as the lighting changed, as the sun went behind a cloud, all of a sudden you'd hear click, 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 all the way down the road. Yeah. So that's just a little bit about some of the stuff that we've done. Watch that cord. Ooh, how many here that we have tonight would you say, you would consider yourself not just in the master's category, but professional artist? That's kind of what you do. You know, it's your main thing. It might be your main source of income, or it might be a source of income, but you know, you're pretty serious about it. You've given yourself to it, and you got some skin in the game, so forth, financially. Do we have folks like that? I mean, I know some of you sell stuff, you know, so, okay, maybe not. And then most of us amateurs, okay, amateurs, yeah. Beginners, maybe like 5 years or less. Any 5 years or less? Good. Okay, good. I mean, since we've been here, we've been in the group. Now, we were photographers before we joined, but in 2022, since then, when we've come to the meetings, we'll hear somebody say, I've just moved to the area. I'm just starting to paint. I'm just starting to paint. And I found you guys online and I just came. That's so great. And we hope that we continue to get, you know, more and more people who will just come and join us. And then experienced, okay, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, Karen. 60, yeah, 60 years of, oh, since you hold a crayon. Okay. Karen Larrabee is sharing her testimony to the thousands listening via Zoom about how she's been an artist for. Oh, go ahead. We have a roving microphone guy right behind you, Karen. Go ahead.
My parents gave my brother and I a room. We could do anything we wanted in that room. I had every art supply and an easel that you could think of. And when the easel wasn't enough, I went to the walls. And then when they needed that room for something else, my father slapped up some paneling over the wall. So I've often wondered what happened but I was one of those kids that I would draw little pictures next to the spelling words, and I would always make a picture with my story. I took lessons from the time I was, I don't know, maybe 10. I love John Nagy stuff. I had every John Nagy book, how to draw, how to do this, how to do that. In high school, we did scholastic arts. It was a 5-day-a-week art thing. I took 5 days a week for 4 years. I won scholastic art awards and went to college, became an art teacher, taught for 30 years, you know, so, and once I retired, I was able to do my own thing, and I do anything creative. I made my own clothes. I stitched on them. I did boutiques to put in. I learned how to cake decorate. So in high school, I decorated cakes to make money. That's me. I have to be creative. I have to do something like that. And once then I said I retired, then I got to I did everything except for oil paints. I had to not do something. I joined the Art League in 2006, and I'm still an active member. And I love this group.
There you go. Thank you, Karen. Anybody else have a similar story? This is something you just grew up with. Oh, yeah, Stephanie, here, go. The mic is coming around to you. Stephanie Arnold.
My mother taught art in college, and she was a very good artist. My grandmother was also an artist, and I loved art. Only thing I owned was a pack of crayons and a pencil, but I would take a sheet of paper and I'd do all these designs, and I'd make little boats out of them, and the crayons would make them waterproof so I could put them down the gutter. And that was my toy. I didn't really have toys, but my mother wanted me to be a musician like her sister and never gave me art lessons. So I never took art lessons and just had to learn on my own. But art has always been a way to express my feelings and things that have gone through in my life. I've expressed it in my art, and very grateful for all the years I've been able to do art.
Very good.
So
thank you. Yeah.
it's not very popular, but I like what I do.
No, Yeah. And as you said, you could, as Stephanie just said, if you can express yourself, your mood, your feelings through your art. Yvonne is also a piano teacher. She's taught, well, not anymore. She doesn't teach piano anymore, but she grew up playing the piano. Her father was the choir director at church, and he said, you really have a gift. You need to keep at this until you're good enough to accompany me. And then if you want to quit, you can quit. Well, by that time, she didn't want to quit. But now she has a great friend besides me at the house that if she can express herself through that piano and sit down with her friend of 60 plus years and play it, and it just it comes out, and the art works the same way. I know we have couples in this group, but do we have couples where there is a house divided? In other words, one of you is a painter and one of you is a photographer.
We are.
Well, you are. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Amy, is it?
In one part of the house playing guitar, going to come in the other part of the house painting my parents.
Okay. Okay. So you've got a musician
Yeah.
and a painter. So music is the arts.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. And so you're expressing yourself in that different way. Okay. And have you figured out a way to bring those two together?
No, not really. I mean, we just, kind of do it around each other and that's about it really.
Maybe a little, yeah, maybe a little bit more difficult to bring in music in the art, but maybe
Yeah.
not. I mean,
I mean,
maybe
he
not. if you-
entertains me.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
au-
Or you could
auditorily while I
you
paint,
could
so.
think about some media presentation where it's your artwork set to a PowerPoint or something with the songs that he's written, and yeah, you could bring it together. Yeah.
What's
The
that?
black. Oh,
Yeah, that'd be cute.
yes. So I hand it right here, Carol.
I've been an artist since I was a kid. And I remember when my son was first born, I mean, I drew, my favorite thing was 64 crayons because I loved all the colors. But when my son was born, I started painting on children's clothing and donating them and selling them. And then with raising my son, it was just too much because I then started to college and graduate school. Went into one field after graduate school, but then went back to school to get a second degree to be certified to teach art. So during that time, I've painted in every medium: oil, watercolor. I've done pastel, acrylic, and my husband has known for the past 40 years that I do art, and he's gotten interested in photography. So now I'm in an organization that requires you to paint from your own photographs, not from something you see online. So we've decided we're going to get into photography together so that I can use the photographs that I take to paint and also learn more about photography because I studied it in college.
Sure.
And I did like it. And he's going to continue learning as much as he can about photography. And we find that synergy, that creative stuff to be really nice, really a common
Good.
thread.
Yeah. And in your situation, it started with two different mediums. You've got painting, photography, and now there's some blending of that, and you're picking up the one, but it's something you do together, kind of like Yvonne and I do, but we just do photography, but we learn from each other.
Mm-hmm.
The tough side of it is you have to buy two of everything. There's no sharing lenses. You both see the same shot at the same time, and I saw it first. It never degenerates into that, but it doesn't have to if you buy two lenses. Yeah, good. And in camera, and you should be the first to hear this scoop here, but in one of our future editions of Camera in the Wild, there's going to be an article about the Blackwoods. And the title of it is, Are Nature Photographers Crazy? And it is alleged that one of them might have said that. And then the article explores, and would you say the article is basically, does it leave the question hanging, or does it basically conclude, yeah, we're crazy? Read the article, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, read the article when it comes out. You know, I've only been accused one, are you okay? Are you okay? Because I'm lying down to take a picture and then they see the camera. Oh, you're one of those people. Yeah. So good. Well, I'm encouraged by hearing about some of the stories where art is something you do together, or where um, you have different kinds of art, but at the same time you've learned how to work that together. What can we learn from each other? What Yvonne and I have seen is that, and this surprised us maybe more than it should have, but when we came and started coming to the CCAL, we noticed, well, there are a lot of similarities. We're both interested, whether we're painting something, whether we're drawing something, we're interested in good light. We're interested in the rule of thirds. Now, the rule of thirds is guidelines, but still, you're looking at how are you setting up a picture in such a way that it looks good. Things like leading lines or S-curves, a nice road leading back into that picture that you've painted. And wow, it just draws the reader's eye right down that road. And it says in the viewer's mind, what is at the end of that road? And that's what you're trying to do, to keep that viewer looking at your image as long as possible. And a road, an S-curve, can do that. We're thinking about composition and arrangement. How do things go in the picture? And sometimes you get a picture that's kind of haphazardly put together. It seems, but not really. You've intentionally put things together in that way. But composition, things like contrast. You want the darker, the lighter images to fit together, and it can help. And if you have a lot of contrast in photography, a lot of times that makes a good black and white shot. You want 3D, perceived or real. Now, if you're a 3D artist, you have 3D. When I look at Moody Blues, my picture that won Best of Show last year, I see depth, but it's a flat image. Well, how do we do that as artists? How do we create depth? And if you're painting or drawing on a paper, on canvas, you know that really there's not a third dimension. There's not three-dimensional, but how do you do that? How do you get to that? And we're all kind of interested in that same thing. But there are also differences, some differences between us. And I think if I had to summarize it, and this is a little bit of an overstatement, but in general, artists create, but photographers capture. Now, not totally fair, because photographers create as well. But we get a big head start. We were at, I believe it was at Brook Green Gardens one year, and as we walked through the gardens, we saw these two women sitting there, and they were painting, plein air. They were painting what we were getting ready to shoot with our cameras. And so they're here, they're sitting there, they've got their easels, and they're painting away, and they're looking, and they're painting, and we're right over here, click, click, click. Now, once we depressed the shutter, we just shot ahead of them in terms of what we have. Everything that they create is from scratch on that canvas. But once we depress the shutter, the photographer has a big jump ahead, in a sense. Now, we're not done. We have to take it home then and do post-processing and try to eliminate parts of it. Maybe we crop in to get really close, like I did with the bee. I didn't want the whole flower. I just wanted that bee. That was the focus of it. So photographers will capture things like that. And so there's differences, but we've just, as I said, every time we come to the Art League, we go home with, that's a good idea. We could apply that to our photography. And it might have been, it typically is a painter, typically somebody who's coming and doing that, or drawing. And we see, yeah, but that works. We've learned something about watching certain things. Yeah, Carol.
Whether it's photography or it's art, you learn. And it's learning that keeps you growing and keeps you interested and keeps you moving forward.
It really is, yeah. It's about what are you going to learn? You don't want to just, when I served as a professor, the goal is don't just go off your notes. Keep learning, keep growing. And same thing as artists, keep growing. And I'm grateful for our workshops that we have here, or our contests that enable us to kind of up our game and learn from each other. Or in March, you walk those halls and you see 150 pictures, or art pieces of artwork. In Still Hopes in November, December, you're walking that hall that's just made for art, isn't it? Wow, all that lighting. And so you're looking and, oh, I like that. I should try that sometime. And we should be doing that. We should be learning from each other. And another thing that I've learned is something that I learned at a workshop. I believe it was for CNPA, a woman named Lisa Langell. And she said, the goal of photography is not to recreate for the viewer what you saw, is to recreate for the viewer what you saw in your mind. Not to recreate what you saw, but what you saw in your mind. And I thought, oh, that's good. Because, oh, yeah, there's Lisa's quote. I didn't see that in Western North Carolina. I didn't see that. I saw these branches. I saw the leaves clearly. I saw what's on the bottom here, but I didn't see this silky water. But that was what I saw in my mind. If I could get everything here stationary on a tripod, but slow down the exposure enough that I could get a nice silky look on the water, that's what I want. I didn't see this either at Swan Lake. I saw the flower, but around it there was other clutter, if you will, just branches behind and some things. But by being able to, in post-processing, to underexpose that, now you just have that flower. But I didn't just, that wasn't what it looked like that day. There was a lot of stuff that was distracting, and I wanted the viewer's eye to be right there, then maybe down the stem, but right there. And so by eliminating those other things, that's where we got. And nobody saw that. I didn't see that day either. Yvonne has a great shot of the grist mill because we were there in October. She has a great shot with all the fall foliage, and it's just gorgeous. And this wood is all kind of brown earth tones, and it's a great shot. And something in me just said, I'm going to make it black and white. And with just, a slider, I can switch it to black and white. And I thought, ooh, that just looks old, like an old mill, which it is. And that's what I was trying to create. But I didn't see that, except in here. I didn't see it in my eyes, but I saw it in my mind. I could make that black and white. I could get rid of the clutter behind that iris. So think about when you're painting, when you're drawing, when you're trying to create an experience for your viewer, what do you want them to see that you saw in your mind? Nobody ever really saw that river the way I saw it in my mind, but it's a nice image now. Why do we do this? Why do we do what we do? We've been talking about that tonight. We've had the testimony of someone for 60 years, 10 years before she was born. She was already doing art. No. Why do we do what we do? Would some of you agree with this? I must do this. Yeah, like I've got to. I see a lot of heads going, yeah, I've got to do this. This is what I was born to do. This is what must come out. I was 7 years old, and there was a student in my class named Kara Furl. And I don't remember whether I sat next to her with our desks or what, but we had some art class one day, and she was drawing up in front. The art teacher had put a swan up front, and Kara was drawing that swan, and it looked to me like a virtual facsimile of the one up there. 7. And I said, Kara, how do you do that? And she said, I just draw what I see. And for some of you, that's the way it is, isn't it? You just draw what you see. And I remember at 7 years old thinking, well, I sure don't see that. But little subtleties like the shadows and the lines, they're not really lines, but as you depict them as an artist drawing it in, you put a little line there and it just kind of shows that fold or that crease or the texture of the feathers. And like, man, and I don't know whatever happened to her. I just remember that she was such an artist. I think we were together for a few more years in elementary school, and then we moved to Colorado from Minnesota. So not there anymore. Don't know whatever happened to her, but what an artist. Yeah. Okay.
When I first started dating my wife,
Yes.
she did all sorts of artwork. She could sculpt, she could paint, and she had a beautiful painting that she gave me before when I was single and I had it in my apartment. But to make a long story short, we've been married for so many years now. So I promised her when we retired that we would start painting together. And we did that 8 years ago, and we kept that commitment. And this is the best thing I could have done, because it's brought back the joy of what art was to her when she was younger, and both of us. It's enriched both of us.
Very good. Yeah, it's something, as I said, it's Yvonne's passion, but I really like it. And it's just a nice break. We have a lot, we've heard the word retirement a few times, and we made the same mistake as some of you other retirees. The word got out, you're retired. And then people say, oh, we can get Bryan, he's retired. And now you're busier than ever. So you have to watch out for that. But one of the things we've enjoyed in retirement, whatever that means, is being able to have this common fun thing to do together. Yes.
Oh, I was gonna say, with the why do you create? So for me, and I think I might be like, is it Lauren? I think like Kara. I feel because you talk about that your creativity takes so many different forms. You bake cake, you sew, and I think like for me, it's not like I don't paint, I can't draw, but I have that thing where I get an idea. It breeds a vision of something in my head. And once that vision is in my head, I have to bring it to reality. And it could be, so I'm into like moss art now. So that's what I've been working with, and like a lot of home decor art. But I've done cake decorating. I've done a lot of home renovating, which is really the same. It's the same thing. The work that I do is about problem solving. You get an idea, you have to build something in software, and it's like, okay, you get a vision of what that software is going to look like, and then you have to work on it and bring it to reality. So it's kind of that same impetus of I have to do this, but it's not just well, I have to create the art. It's like whatever I envision, whatever idea creates that vision in my head. It's like I have to know what this will look like in reality. And I can't stop or sleep until I see what that looks like.
Yeah. And in my peripheral vision, I can see heads nodding, like because others are thinking, what? And those whose heads are nodding are thinking, yeah, I thought that's the way life was. Yeah, I've got to do this. And so, very good. One of the other things I just wanted to share and encourage us with, we have a pretty good mix of folks here in terms of age and experience and so forth, but we can learn so much from each other. And sometimes we can fall into the trap of thinking the least experienced will learn from the most experienced. Now, that's probably true to a large extent, but sometimes the most experienced can learn from the least experienced. Someone comes in, we would call it in an organizational setting, we would say on the edge of the paradigm. And we know how to do painting, we know how to do drawing, we know how to do photography, we know how to do 3D, we know all the rules, maybe we have a degree in it. But somebody comes in over here who's new and just likes to work with clay, or they just like to try painting. They just got a set and they're going to try this, or they just got a new camera that they inherited or was passed down to them from a grandmother who passed away. And I just want to try and use this and honor her memory. And sometimes people who are new to it, they ask questions that aren't really as dumb as you might think. All of a sudden you think, never thought about that. Yeah, you have a story about that? Sounds like that prompted something.
First of all, I'm a guest, so thank you for
Well, welcome. Glad you're here. What's your name?
I'm Carrie.
Carrie. Okay. Well, glad you're here, Carrie. Good.
So I taught art for 32 years.
By the way, we have the mic because we have people on Zoom. So, okay, so go ahead.
I had taught art for 32 years. And in the last 7 years of my career, I was blessed by my daughter joining me as an art teacher. Now, first off, I never expected her to become a teacher, much less become an art teacher. But her first 4 years of teaching, she was half-time at one school and half-time at my school. So we actually, for 4 years, got to teach together. She says she learned so much from me, but boy, did I learn from her. There was so much that was new and innovative that she was doing that I didn't have a clue about. But then she learned about the old school stuff that she didn't have a clue about. So I totally relate to that.
Yeah, very good. And we can learn from each other. So maybe that's an encouragement to find a friend. When we get here early, talk to somebody you don't know, talk to somebody younger than you, talk to somebody older than you, find out, oh, here's somebody who's only been painting, 3 months. Here's somebody who's 60 years. And so mix it up. One of the years, oh, go ahead. I'd rather hear your story. Kathy. Okay. Good. Okay.
Meeting starts at 6 and we get here at 5:30 just to eat and socialize. Would it be okay to bring a piece of our own art here to just let other people look at it and just be open to criticism and be open to comments and that kind of thing, just so we can get others' input? I mean, I'd like to, wouldn't want to do it without the permission of the league, but I just thought that would be really helpful to me.
Good question. And that could be, maybe we consider that for next year. I don't know. We have in our photography clubs, we do that kind of thing. We'll say, okay, tonight, just bring something that you're working on. And maybe you think it's a good shot, but you'd like it to be a great shot. What could I do to take it to the next level? And then the others sit in the room, sit there and talk about it. And that could be, yeah, Dale.
You
Don.
ooze with passion. I appreciate that, Eric. You have great passion for what you do. An inside question to you. I'm not a photographer. Your painting, your artwork is with a camera. You set the settings, you do that. Tell me what you think about photographers that go back and use Photoshop and taint it and paint it and do all kind of stuff. Are you a purist, or how do you feel about that?
Probably my own thought is everybody's a purist until they see what you can do with Photoshop or Lightroom. And it goes to, and that is where the painters maybe have an advantage over us in that they're saying, well, I'm a purist, I just paint it and that's it. And I don't use Photoshop or Lightroom. And those tools are ways to bring it to, this is what I saw in my mind.
Is that true art? Is that true photography?
We've had a few who, over the years in our camera clubs, have said they just shoot it and that's the way it is. Yeah. They all died now, but no. But no, some are more, and I confess I'm probably on the lighter side of editing as I can, but we shoot you can shoot in your camera in a setting called RAW. And when you do that, you're basically saying, I'm going to manipulate this picture. I'm going to, and some people say half. I don't know if half is right, but a significant part of getting that photo to where you want it can be enhancing it to where you saw it in your mind. If you look at it that way, then I can get by the purest thing, because I'm trying to get the raw stuff in the camera on the SD card so that I can create for you the experience that I saw in my mind, not just here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Al?
My son was a purist until about a month ago and bought a new computer because just discovered Photoshop.
Yeah. There's a whole philosophy behind that, and in music, it can be the same way. Going back to the point, there are musical tools now that allow people to play keyboards in any key, but they're just playing in the key of C. But you change certain settings and now it's up a minor third or down a perfect fourth. And was that fair? What about Yvonne Shearer, who spent all those years on John Thompson and learning those? I don't know. So again, we started with this question, and I want to bring it back to you as we get ready to close here. What legacy would you like to leave with your art? Barring, as I said, I've got more in the rearview mirror than in the road ahead. For many in this room, same way. Others of you might have more ahead than in the rearview mirror. But still, there's coming a time when you won't do this art anymore. And at that point, what do you do in terms of leaving a legacy? What would you do? We have of our grandchildren, we have a 13-year-old granddaughter who loves photography. You think Yvonne likes her? Right. So here they go, and Sophia is really grasping the fundamentals of it. And, oh, I think I've got to adjust my ISO here. And, oh, I think if you really got a good analytical mind. And so we love to take her with us. And last year as a sixth grader, she won an award at the state fair for her photos. So there's some encouragement there. But that's one way that we're taking intentional steps as a couple to pass the legacy on. And I would encourage us to think about that as an art league. What intentional steps can you or can the art league do? And maybe it goes back to Kathy's question a little bit ago. What about a critique, like a show and tell, where maybe you can't bring in 60, but you might have certain people who bring in stuff, and then there's some time to talk about it. That could be some really good learning. But what intentional things? Intentional is a good word.
College students here to a meeting and, by invitation, and then just get them involved. And maybe when they would come, we would have something in the meeting that would be directed towards them.
We've talked about Kathy's comment is that we could invite not 100, but we could invite by invitation art teachers from local high schools who could bring a limited number of students in, and they could learn that way. And we've talked about that in the past. I don't know if we've done that recently, but it's certainly something we could do. Yeah, Karen, real quick, because we're about out of time.
I have an art friend who doesn't live in this state. We worked together for a long time, became best of friends. We constantly send each other our paintings and ask, what do you think? What does it need? Is this right? There's something not right. What do you see? And weekly, we do this constantly back and forth with each other. Oh, absolutely.
Well, but the only thing is it's just one person.
True. And we used to do one meeting a year that was a critique meeting. We haven't done that for years, but we did used to do that. It might be something we can bring back.
Maybe. One more, last word. What's that?
Oh, yeah.
That would be
Huh? True. Yeah. Kathy, go ahead.
Leave encouragement. So if a person says, I can't draw, I can't do this, I can't do that, I always tell there's an artist inside of all of us. And even with my children, I have them involved in my paintings. They critique them for me, and it's beneficial. I ask other people, and I also tell people, don't get discouraged. Try again, try again.
And as I was getting this ready, I thought about the 500 people who came by our booth on Labor Day in Chapin. Now, some of them were the home team, but I remember some of the kids who just, oh, Mom, let's go look at the turtles, and drag their parents in there. And then the parents, oh, yeah. So what about them? What about them? Maybe they're in high school, one day, and then now we're bringing. So what do we do? But think about that intentionally. So we're out of time for tonight, but I'm willing to, I don't even know when I'm saying send comments, ideas, or feedback. I don't know what I'm nominating myself for, but just if there are those of you who want to keep this discussion going, we'll figure out a forum to do it. So thank you for your participation tonight. Appreciate it very much.